Before we get started, I want to encourage you to subscribe to the channel, turn on notifications so that you don't miss any of the content that is released by GoCollect. And if you're interested, head over to Regie Collects here on YouTube. It's Wednesday, and you know what that means. It's time for the GoCollect speculation video. Stay tuned. Regie here, your friendly neighborhood bodybuilder and comic book collector, and the host of the GoCollect speculation video. In this video, we are going to spend some time taking a look at 6 blog posts that have been sent in by bloggers to GoCollect. This first blog post is actually asking a pretty provocative question of is he or isn't he? And we are specifically talking about Henry Cavill. There is a lot of controversy surrounding this guy right now, and everyone is asking the same question. Is he going to come back and reprise his role as Superman? And I'll be honest, I like this guy. He is in his late 30s, he's 6'1", he's handsome, he's muscular, he is a solid pick for Superman. But there are some contract disputes around money that has him playing the role, not playing the role, possibly playing the role again. So I am very hopeful that DC can actually work this out. And if Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson gets his way, he and Henry could be in a movie down the road in the near future. The other thing is, when you check out this blog post, not only will you hear about some of this controversy surrounding the contract dispute, but you'll also have an opportunity to read about a book that you may want to pick up related to Black Adam. The link to this blog post and all the others that I'll be talking about in this video are down in the description. This next blog post is a little different in the sense that it actually makes a recommendation and provides guidance on buying, holding, or reducing your holdings of a couple of giant-sized comics. And I know what you're thinking. You're probably thinking about giant-sized X-Men because that is, after all, the giant-sized comic that everybody talks about. But as I mentioned, there is something different about this blog post. And what's different is that the blogger actually takes a look at 3 other giant-sized comics that maybe people aren't taking a look at, but maybe they need to consider. Because in the blog post, they actually compare these other giant-sized books to the performance of giant-sized X-Men. And in some cases, these other books actually outperform giant-sized X-Men. Now, there's a couple of caveats there that I'm not going to get into in this summary, but I definitely want to encourage you to check out the link in the description and read this blog post in its entirety. Just as a heads up, the blogger talks about Giant-Sized Chillers #1 from 1974. And this book is actually pretty cool because after it was issued, the title of the series was actually changed to Giant-Sized Dracula. And this book, Giant-Sized Chillers #1, is actually the first appearance of Dracula's daughter. And as I mentioned, the blogger compares the performance of this comic and some of the others to Giant-Sized X-Men, which is a book that many of us are familiar with. The other book that the blogger takes a look at is Giant-Sized Invaders #1. And this is a personal favorite of mine. I am a huge fan of the Invaders team, and this one definitely caught my attention. And the same can be said for the very last one on this list, a book that I'm not all that familiar with, Giant-Sized Creatures #1. So again, if any of these sound familiar or interesting to you, I definitely encourage you to check them out. I am Team Gwen all the way. I'll just be completely honest about that. But this next blog post is one that I honestly found interesting because the blogger takes a look at some fantastic early appearances associated with MJ, Mary Jane Watson. And there is a little bit of speculation that if the movies continue to go in the direction that they're going, there could be some renewed interest in Peter Parker, in the relationship between he and MJ. And as a result of that, the books that are mentioned in this blog post could see an increase in value because, as the blogger mentions, many of these books are relatively low in price, and so now could be the time for you to actually pick them up. The blogger actually takes some time to talk about 4 different appearances associated with MJ. The first is her cameo appearance in Amazing Spider-Man number 25. And the blogger points out here that the top sellers of this particular book are the 7.5 and the 7.0, and those are going for roughly between $250 and $300. The next book that the blogger looks at is Amazing Spider-Man number 42, and this book is actually considered to be Mary Jane's first full appearance. And what's really great about this one is that she utters her famous words, "Face it, Tiger, you just hit the jackpot." And this book is one that you potentially want to consider picking up. The 2 most popular grades, the 7.5 and the 7.0, have only sold about 9 times each in the last 12 months. The 7.5 has a 90-day fair market value of only $313, which is actually $100 more than last year's average sales price. The 7.0 has averaged $208 in the same time period after it had a 2019 FMV of $165. The blogger goes on to talk about 2 other appearances associated with MJ, and again, if you're thinking that there's some potential here, you definitely want to take a look at this blog post. In this COVID world, everything is a little topsy-turvy, and we are trying to sort out what's actually going to happen, especially as it relates to books that were supposed to come out before the shelter-in-place orders were issued, but then didn't, and then were delayed, and then delayed. And I am specifically talking about The Legion of Superheroes number 6. And this is a comic that actually was hyped up by Brian Michael Bendis before the pandemic hit. On Instagram, he posted up a couple of comments about the coming of a gold lantern. And so everybody was really excited about this, and then the release date came and went and then was pushed. And so I think folks are trying to sort out when this book may actually be released. Originally, the comic was scheduled to be released April 1st. And then with everything happening with COVID, the date was pushed back to April 15th before being changed to May 18th. And the latest news is that Legion number 6 will be delivered to comic shops on or about June 10th. And part of the reason why there's so much excitement around this book is, yes, because of the futuristic gold lantern, but there is also some speculation that there could be a futuristic Dr. Fate as well as a Monster Boy making an appearance in this particular comic. And this could be an awesome book to pick up. It is rumored that there will be 2 different covers, and if you have the opportunity to pick this book up for cover price, it could be a great buy for you. The blogger goes on to talk about some other things happening with Punchline and a few other characters. So again, the link to this one down in the description. Check it out, read it in its entirety, because there could be some good stuff here for you. So there are a lot of rumors out there right now about what is going to be the next event in the MCU. And there are rumors that are floating out there that Ultimatum is going to be coming to the MCU. And Ultimatum is a story arc that not a whole lot of people liked. I honestly haven't read it, and I have a lot of the Ultimate Universe comics in my collection. I just have not gotten around to reading this one, and I'm not even sure if I want to because people say that it's really bad. But there is speculation and rumor that this storyline could make its way to the MCU. Just recently, there was a lot of news that came out where people were saying that is never ever going to happen. The truth of the matter is that we don't know. We don't know at all. And in fact, the blogger basically goes through the rumors and talks about what could and could not happen. And he even concludes that this might be a long shot. And because it's a long shot, it may not be one that you want to invest in. But I want to encourage you, as does the blogger, to actually do some research. Read this blog post, decide for yourself if there is a possibility of Ultimatum making its way to the MCU. Maybe this is something that you want to dabble in. The link to this blog post is down in the description, and I definitely want to encourage you to check it out. So I'm going to be honest with you. You can't really turn on the TV or the streaming services without seeing comic book related properties pop up. And I talk about this on my channel, Regie Collects, a lot, because in my opinion, we are really living in a golden age, and not to take anything away from the actual golden age. But what I mean by that is that we have Marvel and DC, in my opinion, putting out some really great content. We have the streaming services and the movies that are just epic. We also have the independents that are putting out some fantastic comic book material, and they are even coming to the streaming services and the big screen as well. It is a fantastic time, in my opinion, to be part of just comics. This hobby is just it is really good. But this blogger spends some time looking at some of the properties that are actually coming out from these indie publishers that are making their way to the streaming services. And the list is rather long, and it's honestly getting longer because of Boom Studios' recent deal that they actually signed with Netflix. So if there is any interest here in speculating on properties from indies that could be coming to streaming services, you might want to take a look at this blog post. So there you have it. We have reached the end of this video. I have to tell you that these 6 blog posts that we just looked at are honestly fantastic. They are all well written. There's a diverse amount of information here, which I really enjoyed. It wasn't just one thing. There was a little bit of something for everyone in there. And so I definitely want to give a huge shout out to all of the bloggers that week after week after week send in this fantastic content for me to review, for you to read, and for you also to hear about in this video. My hope is that you guys will tune in next week when we get to do this all over again.